Hello cosplayers, and welcome to a tutorial and a new video that I haven't uploaded in a very long time, and I apologize for that. I'm working very hard on trying to upload more videos here, and I'm starting with this very complicated, very long tutorial, but hopefully you can watch all the way through. It's very informative, and it'll teach you step by step on how to do this wig. So the wig we're doing today is Mei from Overwatch. I picked this one to do a tutorial for just because I know she's a very popular character, so I figured a lot of you guys who follow might be, wanting to cosplay as her or know other people who want to cosplay as her in the future. And, you guys can pass this on to your friends or whoever you want, or you can use it for yourself, whichever you prefer. So if you would like to learn how I made this wig, just keep watching. Base wig I'll be using for this tutorial should be right up on your screen. I did have footage for this earlier, but I accidentally deleted it, so you will have to deal with looking at a stock image, so I apologize for that. But it is the Genie from Arta Wigs, and it is in the shade dark brown. The reason why I picked this wig is because it has a ponytail clip included, and we will be using that ponytail clip to harvest the wefts from it so that we can use it on our bun that we'll be making later on. So the other option of their ponytail wigs is a jasmine, but I don't think that one is very good for this just because it's just a ponytail that is tied up. It's not one that includes a clip. So for ease of styling and keeping all the wig fibers together, the Genie is much better because of the clip, and you can seam rip out the wefts and use those like I mentioned earlier.
Alright, so here are the supplies you're going to need. First is a foam ball. This one is a smooth foam 3.9 inch diameter ball from Joann Fabrics. I think it was about $5 or $6. I would suggest a bigger one like that, unlike ones like these that are a little bit smaller, like you would maybe use for a Sailor Moon wig, just because when you have a style with one bun, they're usually bigger, like this. So I think this is a perfect size. Next is some paint. I have this, it's actually a acrylic paint for pleather, but it's fine to use for this. It's not going to hurt the ball or anything. The reason why I have this is because since we are using dark brown wefts, we should color the ball the same color just so it's easier to when we're gluing the hair down onto the ball. You'll obviously need a paintbrush to paint the ball, and I'm not sure why this is so jacked up. I have no explanation for that. You'll also need some glue. This is tacky glue. I use it to glue the foam on the ball, or that didn't make any sense. Glue the wefts onto the foam. And I have been trying to find a good glue to use for this process and for wig styling in general. I tend to not like this glue because it dries white, even though it says it's supposed to dry clear, it doesn't. We're also going to be using a foam brush to kind of brush out the glue just to make it more smooth and not lumpy and goopy and stuff like that. We'll also need some water, which is here. It already has some glue residue in it because I was using it last night for a different wig. And this is just to rinse off your brush, really, because your brush is going to get goopy with glue and you don't want it to cake up like that. It's just going to be harder to work with, so you can rinse it off in some water. And the water is also to smooth down the wig fibers onto the ball so they look nice and smooth and neat. And you'll also need some scissors. This will be for styling the bangs and also for cutting the extra wefts from the ball that you'll be wrapping around the ball. You'll also need a comb. It's also for the bangs. And you will need hairspray for the styling in general. I use Got2b glued hairspray. I found this is the best glue so far. Tresemme is also really good, the highest level of hold that you can find. I really like that one too. Those are the only two really that I found that I liked so far. And a hairdryer. because you will need a hair dryer to dry the hairspray. Once you've sprayed it, it just sets it and makes it last a lot longer. Anyway, so that's all you'll need for this project, and let's get started with the actual styling. Okay, so the first thing we'll be doing is carving a giant hole into this ball. So what I'm going to be doing first is there is a little tiny circle here that I usually use as the center point guide. So I just kind of stab into that. I'm using a butter knife. I'm pretty sure an X-Acto blade would work better, but I don't want to cut myself, so I'm going the safe route and using a butter knife, which has worked for me before, so I'm just going to stick with that. So the center point usually is a good idea to start at, and then you just kind of work your way around and in. So as you can see, there's a hole right there. Do this over a trash can. This is all my wig stuff that I throw away when I'm done using it. So take your butter knife, box cutter, whatever the hell you're gonna use. So basically I'm just stabbing the hole right there just so I can get a little bit of a starting point. And then so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of go around, make this wider, and then dig out the inner foam. Okay, so now you can see I have cut the correct size hole that I want that should fit over the stubbed ponytail really well. So now what I'm going to be doing is just hollowing this out a lot more. I just want to get it at least so that I can set it flush like that onto the head, and then we can start gluing the hair on. When you're done carving your ball, this is roughly what it should look like. It's pretty deep, and you always want to make the opening wider than what the stubbing part is going to be, because you want it to fit over there when the hair is on the ball, because once the hair is on the ball, it's going to make the opening a little bit smaller. It's just unavoidable. So after we cut this ponytail off, this will just sit, if I can keep this still, this will just sit right on top like that. And it looks like I probably will need to move the ponytail up. Yeah, I think I'm gonna need to put the ponytail up a little bit more. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna be doing after we've carved out the ball, I'm going to paint it. And what I've done is I've gotten a plate to kind of put some paint on. I covered the plate in plastic wrap just so I don't mess up the plate, because we do eat off these plates and I don't want to have to wash paint off. So I'm gonna pour some like that. All you're going to do is pretty much just paint all over the ball, and I'm going to use this paper towel to have it sit on and let it dry and do its drying thing. So I'm gonna get the brush wet first just so I can make it softer, because it was kind of hard before. Dry it off a bit. Okay, so then just dip the brush in and just start painting. And you're gonna want an even coat, and you may have to do 2 coats, although this paint I'm using is super opaque because it is a vinyl paint. It's meant for pleather fabric, so it is pretty opaque. Like I said before, you don't have to use this paint. You can use any acrylic paint really, or any kind of paint honestly that you have to use a paintbrush with. I wouldn't recommend spray paint just because it might disintegrate the foam. Alright, so the ball is more or less completely painted. I didn't do any of the underside just because I want to let this dry first. And I didn't really think this through that well because I'm not going to be able to set it down without getting my fingers dirty. But you know what? That's kind of the price you pay for cosplay. You gotta get messy sometimes. There we go. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is taking these pins and I'm going to be putting them all along the hairline so that I can have the wig held down all the way around so that the wig doesn't get pulled off of the head while I'm pulling up all the hair of the ponytail. And when you're doing this, you want to stretch the wig cap all the way down onto your head so that you can make sure that the elastic on the inside of the cap is all stretched out so you don't create a smaller wig fit with the elastic when you pull up the wig hairs, because if you pull the wig hairs up and then you retie it and you kind of, you know, go like that, when you want to tighten it, it's going to make the wig cap smaller. So if you have all your pins down with the wig cap all the way as far stretched down as you can, it won't alter the size. I also wanted to point out that having this type of wig head, plastic one, it's really good to have for styling because it's more or less to a normal person's head size. I believe it's a 21.5-inch circumference around the forehead area, all the way around the head. Unlike those foam ones over there, that one is also a plastic one, but that one right there is a foam one. Those are a lot smaller, and if you style on those, you'll have to be really, really, really careful to not cut things too short because it's smaller than a person's real head. So if you cut it to, you know, the eye shape and all that, it's going to be smaller or shorter on you because your head is usually bigger than those wig heads. Unless you have a super small head, then, you know, you can use those. But these are really cheap. I got this one, both of these, off of eBay. They were only, I believe they were $9. They're really worth it. And I can leave a link down in the description for these because I really like them. They're really good to use. Okay, so you see there's a hair, the elastic is just one long elastic thing. And I have a hair tie here that I'm going to use. So all I'm going to be doing is trying to keep this as close to the same spot as it was in before so it doesn't get crooked, and I'm just going to pull this up further. Okay, I'm going to grab my comb so I can smooth everything out, hopefully. And you want to do this obviously before you do any stubbing, just because once you stub the wig and you cut off this ponytail, you're not going to be able to undo the ties or the hair tie because you'll lose the style and then you will not be able to put it back up in a ponytail again, so you don't want that. I think this is the perfect position for the ponytail. I'm going to make sure it's still centered. I believe it is. Here's the ball that we painted earlier, so I'm going to see how this fits like that. I wonder if that's too high. So this is the position I'll be working with. I talked to the customer and she said she liked this height, so we will be doing that. So once this ponytail is cut off, we will be putting hair on the ball and putting it like that on the wig. So next what I'll be doing is just taking a hair tie. It doesn't matter what color you have, you can just use whatever because it's not going to be seen on the wig. And then I'm going to tie this off a little bit below the other hair tie. Tie it as tight as you can because it's going to be holding these wig fibers together. So right now I have this wefting needle and thread. The thread is black, but it's close enough to the hair color where it doesn't really matter. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sewing through this hair tie and kind of through the outside a bit and through, you know, anywhere you can, just to hold all of this together. Okay, so now what you want to do is this space here between this hair tie and this hair tie, you're going to want to cut as close to the thread this hair tie as you can without cutting the thread you just sewed in. So maybe like halfway between the two. And that was one of the reasons why we cut this ball as deep as we did. So even if you have like a bit of a extension out here, it'll still fit inside the ball. By the way, this is going to get super messy because you're going to have hairs flying everywhere, so do it over a surface you don't care about or that you can easily clean afterwards. I'm doing it over a carpet, which is not a good idea, but this is my workspace, so it's already has hair all over it because I was working on wigs. When you're done, you should have something like this, a little stubby thing. The hair with this ponytail that you just cut off, you can just throw out because we have a whole nother hair clip to work with the hair. And I find that the hair from this is super layered, and like these outside ones right here are long enough, but the inside ones aren't to wrap around the bun we're going to be using. So I find that just using the extra clip, the hair from the extra clip, works just fine. Next thing we'll be doing is preparing our wefts to glue onto our ball. So what I have is the ponytail clip from the wig that I purchased originally for the commission, and you can actually seam rip the wefts out of it, which makes them a lot easier to handle. So what you want to do to remove the clip from the ponytail is untie this elastic, and then loosen it up, and then you can just pull it right off of the clip. And then you can keep the clip or throw it out or do whatever you want. They're not that interesting. Now you have your ponytail clip that is now a bunch of wefts you can use. And this ponytail is super long, so you'll have a lot of hair to work with your ball. So after that, what you just want to do is go in, find the parts where you see the line of the bottom of the weft like that, and then you just want to seam rip it out. I'm not going to really walk you through how to do this. I can actually, sorry about my Facebook sounds by the way, I can do a separate video on how to remove wefts and stuff
So just to make things go faster, I'm just going to start doing it. Alright, this was a very bad example because this turns out to be a super short weft. So you'll want to look for ones that are longer than this because this one's not going to work for the ball. But that was basically the process. So I'm just going to do that with a bunch of longer ones, and I will come back once I have a bunch of those. So I've ripped all my wefts out of the ponytail clip. I just kind of tied them all together with a hair tie. And you can see all the, I still have the parts where they're attached to the little thing that's holding them together, but otherwise it's just one big long loose pile of hair. So I'm gonna just untie this now because I just wanted to hold these together, oops, before, so that I wouldn't tangle them or lose any. And then with the glue, what I usually do is when I'm not doing any gluing, I have it laying down like that on its side so that it's easier for the glue to come out. And then I have my scissors, my comb, and my foam brush ready to go along with my water. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna grab one of your wefts. Maybe not that one. All right. So we'll do this one first. So what I do usually is I fold it in half, just so it's doubled up, so it is a bit thicker. This is a little difficult because this one was crimped or ironed over on the wig or on the ponytail clip so that it can cover the edges. So I'm gonna try and work with that as best as I can. So you're just gonna kind of fold it over and have it like that. And then what you want to do with your ball is start at the edge and just put a line of glue. You don't want to put too much, but you want to put enough that you're going to be able to get your weft down. And then you're going to kind of spread it around like that, just so there's no clumps. And then you're going to lay your hair on top like that. It's okay if it doesn't cover the entire area. And then you just kind of want to smooth it down, and then where the water comes in, you want to dip your finger in and just kind of smooth it over where you glued so that it kind of melds with the glue and smooths out the hair itself also. And then you want to hold it down where you glued it and then fold this back, do some more glue, Just as a side note, the further down the weft you go, the thinner the hair is gonna get.
so you'll probably have to go over spots a few times. What I'm going to be doing is going kind of opposite, so the next one I'm going to start down by the thin end of the last weft I did. And then there's your first weft. So what you're going to want to do before you even cut the bottom of this hair off, you just want to let it sit to set it. You don't want to you don't want to blow dry this when the glue is drying, just because you don't want it to stay white. I've found that when you blow dry this type of glue, it doesn't dry clear, I guess because it's not taking the time to set. So you're gonna have to wait a few minutes in between each one, which makes this process take a lot longer, but it just makes it look a lot cleaner and you'll get less glue flakes and all that stuff. So now that the weft is dried, at least somewhat, we can cut off this end. You'll want to extend it a little just so it can kind of tuck in just a tiny bit. And then you are left with this strand. Now, this is kind of skinny, so I think I'm just going to scrap the rest of this and just use a new one, just because it's not going to cover much. Now I'm going to take a new weft and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to double it like that. And you know, you might want to brush it out if it has some tangles in it, and then you just pretty much do the same thing. So when you get to the point where you're going to be crossing over the other hairs, just be careful and maybe just let it kind of drop down on there instead of putting the nozzle on there, just so you don't mess up the hair. I wanted to come in and say that if you have extra hair that you cut off and it is thick enough that you can use it again for another time going around the ball, what I do is I just glue the ends together, and I usually do both sides. You want to make sure that you get water on the ends of this too, because it helps eliminate, you know, the white that might happen when it dries. And then you can just, you know, smooth it out like that. And then you just want to let it sit for a couple minutes just so it sets and all that. So now you can see I have about half of the ball covered. Honestly, I would suggest using smaller pieces than I did if this is your first time doing this. But I've done this a lot, so I am used to using bigger chunks of hair. But if you're just starting out, just to make it smoother, you might want to use small pieces, like maybe 2 inches wide, I would say, folded over. So I would still double it over, but maybe like about 2 inches wide altogether, just so you don't have to worry about hair coming up and all that. If you have any glue spots left over, you can always color it with a Copic marker. That usually works too, just to hide the little spots that you may have missed. Here's the foam ball completely covered. You can see that I've used the water to smooth everything out once I've had the glue on there and the
hair set onto the ball. And then I have my brush in the water to dissolve all the glue so it's easier to clean later. So now I have all the rest of the wefts here. I actually just threw those away just because I didn't need them for anything else, although you can keep them for future projects if you want. And here's another shot of the finished ball in where the lighting is hitting it better, so you can see how smooth and nice it is. And then when you put it on the wig, you're going to push down all those ends inside of the ball so that it curves around really nicely. Last thing I'll be doing to the bun is spraying some hairspray on it. I got my Got To Be Glued freeze spray. And this is just so that it creates just one more layer of hold on the hair just to make sure it doesn't flake off or come up or anything like that, just to make it a little more secure when it's on the wig. Moving on to the bangs, I've clipped them up so that they're in the proper position for what I'll be doing with them. And now I'm going to take my thinning shears, which, as you can see, have these little teeth that grip the hair and kind of cut little strands, but it doesn't cut all of it, so it makes a more even cut while still kind of thinning it out, just like, you know, the name of the scissors suggests. It also helps to not make as many mistakes when you're cutting, so you don't cut a bunch of the hair out, and you could see right there that it just kind of pulls the hair out in little strands. And it's really good if you're a beginner at cutting, so that you don't cut too much at a time, and it's just a lot easier to do it this way. And then it takes longer to do it this way, but it also is more accurate, so I think it's honestly a better way to cut hair like this. So after you've finished cutting your hair, you're going to want to heat set it down into place. So you're going to comb it out first, so there's no knots or tangles or anything in it. And with this type of wig, it's a bit difficult to keep it where you want it with these side bangs. So you're going to want to heat set it, and basically what I do is I just clip it to the wig itself against the head with an alligator clip, and it'll just hold the hair down in place so that you don't have to hold it while you're blow drying it and everything. And the way I heat set on wigs most of the time is blow drying it. If I need to do curling or anything like that, I'll use a straightener or curling iron, obviously, but for stuff like this, I usually just use a hair dryer just to heat up the hair enough that it can be set into place where you want it to be. And then once you're done doing that, you want to hold it in place, which is part of the reason why the clip is there, and wait until it's cool to take out any clips or anything so that the heat setting will stay, and once it's cooled down, it'll stay how you had it. Now we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. So cutting the hair down to the length we want it on the side, and then heat setting it. Once you have it to the length that you think you want, just make sure that you keep checking against the other side that you've already done, just to make sure it's all even and everything. But when you're doing it, like I said, with the thinning scissors, it's really easy to just, do it accurately like you want, even though it's slower. And usually you won't mess up the lengths and everything. You'll be able to get it even almost every single time. Once your hair has cooled down, you can take your clips out and it should stay more or less where you blow dried it down. Since I have this one kind of at a kind of far side part, it was a little bit difficult to keep it where it was, but it did stay pretty well where I wanted to go, at least better than what the original wig came with. And now what I'm going to be doing is doing the little piece that comes down in front of her forehead. So I'm going to be separating a piece of hair to trim and do all that with. And it's kind of the same process as cutting the side bangs. You're just going to cut it to where you want it to sit with the thinning scissors, and you should be able to do it just the same way. So that's about where you want it, around eyebrow level. And after that, I'm going to trim some of these side bangs a little bit more so that I can style those later, because her bangs are a little bit messy with the side part where it kind of goes off to the side. So I'm going to have to layer those and shorten those a lot so that it will look accurate. Once you have everything cut, you're just going to hairspray and then blow dry your style in, and then you should have that done. So now that you have your bangs and everything styled, you're going to take your foam ball with all your wefts on it, and we're going to glue it onto the stub that we made earlier. So what I use to glue the bun onto the wig is tacky glue again. You can also use hot glue. Hot glue would be more secure. I just don't really like using it because it tends to get everywhere, and then it tends to show up on the wig where you don't want it to. So tacky glue is a lot easier to use because you can spread it around and it doesn't dry as fast. So what I'm doing is just putting a bunch of glue around the edge. Sorry you can't see it. I was trying to position the camera and the ball where I couldn't actually see what I was doing through the camera. I was just looking at it. So I'm also putting glue on the very inside of the ball too. So you can see I put it all over the edges, and then I'm putting it on the inside too, so that there will be glue all over the little stubby part when you put the ball on there. When you're placing the bun onto the wig, you want to make sure that you're doing it right the very first time, because you can't take it back off. Well, you can, but you'll mess up your wefts, so you don't want to take it off. So just make sure you have it where you want it the first time. And you just hold it down like that, just squish it in. And then what I'm doing now is I'm going to be pinning the bun down to the foam head so that the glue will have a chance to dry and be held down by something. So it's a little bit difficult with this kind of a bun since it's not super flush against the wig, but if you angle the pins the right way and you use like the longer pins, they should work out and you'll be able to hold the bun down onto the foam, onto the wig head. And you'll want to do it like pretty much all the way around every single, like maybe separated half an inch space between each pin, so you want to do it pretty much all the way, as many pins as you can in there, just to make sure it's held down as much as possible. So in this clip, it's the next day, and if you don't want to wait that long, you can wait maybe 3 to 4 hours. I would say that'd be a good time for the glue to set enough. Honestly, I would wait overnight just to be safe. But now I'm taking the pins out. You want to be really careful when you're taking the pins out, when you're, pinning foam with glue down, because the glue might dry against the metal, and when you're pulling it out, the little ball on top of your pin might come off and you'll be stuck with a metal pointy thing in your wig that you'll have to take out with pliers, and that's always a pain. So usually what I do when I take pins out is I twist and then it'll loosen it from the glue, and then I can pull it out easier. Last thing to do on this wig is the little spike by her bun. So we're going to take this weft that I kept from the ponytail clip, and we're going to be tacky gluing again, and that's going to be going just under the bun where you glued it, probably around the middle, at the top in the middle. And basically there should be enough room for you to do that to hide the little end of the weft, and you just do it the same way as you do the side bangs and the front bangs, is just cut it with your thinning scissors and style it up with hairspray and a blow dryer. And that's all for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed watching, even though it was really long. I hope you guys made it through okay. And if you liked this type of video, please be sure to hit the like button and Let me know if you want to see more of these types of tutorial videos, or if you want me to make them shorter or do little separate tutorials about different things or things like that. Like any suggestions you have, just leave down in the comments if you could. That would be great. And also subscribe if you would like to. I would really appreciate it because I love, getting to know any other cosplayers and things like that. And I just, really love to talk to you guys and get feedback on the things that I'm doing. So with that being said, you can visit any of our various websites on our social media that we have. I will link it all down below. Please follow us on those things as well, because we post a lot of progress pictures, all of our finished photos and stuff like that. So with that being said, that is all from me. And I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye!